All right, everybody, we are live again, back to back. Dynasty Mirror Search for Uhuru. Got brother Dewan live in the studio. In the studio. All right, everybody, we are live. There we go. And also we have the sister Shirley Husar on with us today from Game Changers.
Okay. Urban Game Changers. West Coast in the house.
Woo! In the house. And today's topic is, so I was up early this morning, before I meditate and get out the bed and, use the bathroom and all that good stuff, brush my teeth. I was just going down my Facebook timeline, and Sister Shirley brought up reparations. And it's been consistent, Shirley, in my experience. If you are a Black conservative or a Black person in general, this has nothing to do with party lines or anything, and you bring up reparations, for some reason, whites, conservatives, Republicans, they attack you for even bringing it up. Now, the liberals, they won't attack you as hard, but they won't entertain it. But goodness, the white Republicans will flat out attack you. Why, Shirley? Why do you think this is so?
I think this has to do with party issues. So when one party says yes, the other party will automatically say no. And issues are used as ping pong balls sometimes in politics. And I have to blame part of the fact on Black conservatives, because personally, I wasn't paying attention to it, and I didn't realize all the negative heat they had about reparations. And, how Fox News was making fun about it, and, Black people don't need it. And then you have people like Candace Owens saying, we don't have race in America. All these kind of statements that I'm just like, well, are these people delusional or what? Do they not understand the history of the longevity of this country and the people of its contribution? I mean, Trevor Noah, who I don't agree with at all, gave a great breakdown that I posted all over the place. He gave a great breakdown of reparations.
Right.
So we have to at least say, number one, can we have the conversation? Because when I get answers on my Facebook page of white people saying, well, I'm not paying for Black people. Well, first of all, you don't represent America. You're not the only one in this country. Because if reparations get paid by America, that means I have to put into it too, right? And I'm not an American. It's just really idiotic comments. And if people don't agree with me, bye. I would say bye, bitches. Just don't follow me on Facebook. I don't take this stuff with these people serious because I do not know them. And most of these people are not open to an ideology of conversation. They just want to use words of slanders and attack, and it gets old.
Now, you brought up Candace Owens. Now, Candace Owens is what, first generation immigrant?
I don't know. I've never met the lady.
She is. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, she is.
And allegedly she's Caribbean. Again, allegedly, because I don't know. If I was on Phil's show and Phil said yes, she's Caribbean. Tree of Logic, shout out to her. She said yes, she is Caribbean. My girl Miss Green, she said Kiki Green says she's Caribbean. So I have to take people who I kind of believe at their word that allegedly she is Caribbean. But whatever the case may be, she didn't vote for Trump. She didn't support Trump. She came after the hard work in the ground was laid by people like myself. She came in later on in the game claiming to be a victim that woke up. I just woke up. Well, I've been a conservative Republican all my life. I believe in God and family and country. I believe in making money. I don't believe in poverty and government and programs that continue that promote perpetual pain and poverty upon a people. Instead of saying that we want Trump to give us something, we need to know what we want. And that has been the biggest problem.
You got a question, Dewan?
No, I'm enjoying listening for a while. You go ahead.
Now, Sister Shirley, a lot of people will say, okay, how can you support Trump and then want reparations because of, I guess, Trump's reputation that, he will never even consider entertain it. Basically, people are trying to say that being a Black conservative and reparations don't go hand in hand. What are your thoughts on people who make statements like this?
Reparations has to deal with money, right?
Right.
Do Democrats want Black people to have money?
No.
No, they want Black people to continue to live in a society of government-imposed programs. They want the government to expand and grow and control your life. That's what the Democrats want. And all you're using reparations that are Democrat so that you can obtain the black vote. That's all it's about. This is about numbers, money, and power. That's all that politics is about. So in saying that, why would I support Trump? Why would I vote for this man? I hear that all the time. You have to think about politics are based on the better of the two evils. Meaning that when you get down to the nitty gritty and both candidates have ran on their platform, we come down to two candidates. You could have chose Hillary Clinton or you could choose Donald Trump. So why would I choose a woman that has helped accelerate jail time for African-American men? Why would I support a candidate that was supported by a man who helped emasculate black men who like to sleep with black men and play with black things on their bodies and not support the black woman and the black family? I believe in strong black family. I believe in God, family, and country. So why would I support a woman who attacked the people of Haiti, who took their money and didn't return that damn money, who created false foundations and all these allocations? That's not allegedly, that's factual, that's out there.
Bring up Libya too. Libya.
So, and Libya. So, and they said, well, what about Trump? Well, what about him? Because Trump has been the first person to have talked about immigration. Hell, we're down to 6% blacks in California. We ain't got no black people in California. The illegal immigrant think that we're a piece of nothingness here. We have immigrants who come here and they said, we don't hire black people. You have to be bilingual. Do you speak Spanish? No, I don't speak Spanish. I speak English. Well, you need to learn Spanish. Well, you need to learn the native tongue of this country, which is English. But we have people in this country, and particularly in California, who pander towards immigration and illegal immigrants, and black people who put themselves in 5th and 4th position. I didn't say 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. I said 5th and 4th position. What ideology, what idiot does that? That's a Democrat. That's people who support that side that want to perpetually impose programs. So when I look at both candidates at that time, and still do today as far as parties, I believe in opportunities of growth, of seeing us move as a country of people. We need to come back and have conversations, my brothers and my sisters. We need to stop looking and attack each other just because we see somebody with a hat. I'm a little older than most of the people wearing that hat that you see sitting in front of Trump, singing Trump, Trump, Trump. We need to have legislation. We need to have ideologies. We need to talk about opportunity and growth in programs in our community. And we need to sit back and say, you know what, I don't agree with you, but that's a good point that needs to be made.
Well, Sister Shirley, this is the one. I agree with everything you said about the Democrats, but I've got a quick question. So one thing you said specifically that stood out when you were asking, do the Democrats want black people to have money? And of course, we know the answer is no. Conversely, do you feel that Republicans want black people, African people to have money?
I think when we come to parties, I don't think none of them want us to have money. So right. let's just make it clear.
And that's true.
They only will give you what you ask for. If you're going to sit back and keep saying, they're not giving us, that's not how policies work. Legislation works by preparing a proposal of ideas and concepts, and you presenting it to the table. I want something to eat. I want something to eat. Then when I give you livers and onion, I don't eat livers and onion. You've not told them what you want. I want a good steak and potatoes. You never told them you wanted steak and potatoes. You just said you wanted something to eat. So this is the problem with our own people.
So do you believe when you? I'm sorry, sister. Go ahead.
No, that's basically it. If we prepare a plan of action, if we prepare the plate ourselves, then we say, look, before you give me anything, let me tell you, I want my steak. I want it well done. I want prime rib. I want it on the bone. I want a little grill on there. Can you do that for me? I want baked potatoes with bacon because, I love bacon. I got family from the South. I want a little butter and I want some toppings on the side. Now, I know it's kind of fattening, but I'm going to split it in half and save most of it for next week because I'm a conservative. I don't eat all my food at one time like some damn liberal. Right. I'm going to sit back and conserve and stretch this meal out because I know it's not a cheap meal. And I'm going to present it to the table of the kings and those of power. And I'm going to say to them, can you give me this? That's what you say. But you don't sit back and say, feed me, because that's all we do.
Okay. I've got two more questions, and let brother jump in. All right. When we think of the idea of conserve and conservativeness in general, when I think of conserve, I think of white people and white children, this their destiny. They have power, so they are socialized to conserve. But as black people, regardless of where they want to identify with the power dynamic in this country or not, our essence has to, for us, has to be revolution. I'm assuming, right? I don't have power, so why would I want to maintain a conservative state of someone in power? Because I don't have anything. So what would you say to people who feel like, you know, black people identifying with the idea of conservativeness in general, not in terms of policy towards like family or LGBT rights, but just conserving power in general? If we're not the ones in power, why would I naturally want to? Why would I be conservative? Wouldn't I want, at the very least, if not revolution, some form of change or adjustment eventually toward revolution?
Well, I don't use the term revolution with conservative when you think of ideologies like conservative liberals, progressive socialists. Those terms go together. When we talk about a revolution, then we're talking about a complete changeover. And I think that's what we're having right now, a complete changeover. And I think the conversation of African American people are on the table because of Trump. And if it was not for Trump and we had just any Republican, that would have not come on the table, obviously, because we've seen that over decades. Same thing with the Democrat Party. Black people are naturally innate people who are conservatives, and they don't even know it.
I agree with that.
I think there's a difference. I do too.
Ideology, I agree with that.
Right. I think there's a difference in terms of conservatives when we talk about family.
Right.
That's very, very, very different. Like we gotta get into we gotta be nuanced here, right? So in terms of like family values, yes, we're very conservative culturally. We can see as on the continent what's last. Exactly. But specifically in terms of legislation geared toward power shifting, we are not in a position where we can be conservative.
No, we're not, because we don't know how to utilize power. So what we think is powerful is legislation that is going to fund us, like a small business loan or some type of imposed programs, and they're going to be the all fixed issues. And that's what has been programmed into our communities of what is going to be effective. What has failed us is that we don't talk about LLCs. We don't talk about SBA, in the sense of we don't need SBA. We need OPM, other people's money. We need to talk about LLCs and S corporations. We need to talk about opportunities of direct sales through social media and online shopping and online marketing. We need to talk about different entities of global aspirations of context. Like if we go to elance.com or workup.com, well, we can hire a social media assistant. We can have basically someone online that's our assistant. We need to utilize technology to our empowerment instead of our detriment. That is someone that slows their roll, conserves their energy to make a wiser decision in the execution of their life.
No, I agree 100% in terms of like using technology as something beneficial, not just to entertain folk or brag about what we got. Right, I agree 100%. Another question I have, the last question is in terms of being conservative and in terms of reparations. When we think about not just the history of our ancestors who were enslaved here, but Jim Crow, redlining, crack epidemic, which we are aware of now, how funded the country. Well, we're aware of this. We have access to this type of information. What do you think about specific and unique legislation that is solely beneficial to African people who, again, were the African descendants of American slavery? Do you think something like that is feasible? And do you agree that something like that is necessary? And last quick caveat, I believe that something that is necessary because we were systemically locked out of power, and we were like we were a contagion to any type of money. Like if we go somewhere, the worth of something naturally goes down. And this wasn't just done by ragtag people. This was done by for sure. So what do you think about specific legislation for Black people in this country? What would that look like? And just I want to know your opinions on that in general.
Absolutely. The answer is yes and yes. Why? Because other cultures have been able to obtain legislation specifically for their culture. In 2017, President Trump created an alliance with the Native American Indian tribes. And what he did was he allowed them to excavate oil off of their land. No other president has ever done that. And he made a treaty with them saying, look, we'll let you go ahead and get the oil off of your land, but we are going to get reciprocity. We're going to get a little something from it, and you'll get a piece of it too. What does that do? That gives them leverage. That gives them leverage. Immigrants come here on EB2, on visas, EB5, all those different EB visas, okay? They come here through chain migration. Government dispositioned us and empowered them over us. How? By allowing them to come here, they move into our communities, specifically in California, and then they start taking over businesses. You have the Koreans who are buying real estate. You have, and they start buying hair. They sell the hair, right? We're dealing with the Vietnamese who start the nail industry. We're dealing with the Indians who bought all the hotels up. Now, what a lot of y'all don't remember is that blacks and whites used to own everything. We had a mixture of our own people in America owning everything. Now we have become a sole proprietor of culture of people where you see them dominate in one industry. So you have this bad version of Epcot. You have this bad gumbo of people saying, well, my people are the ones that control all the hotels, because America and government has dispositioned us and empowered them. And it continues through chain migration. I'm bringing my uncle, my cousin, my JoJo, this guy, that guy. That's a disposition of government. So when I hear white people or conservatives say to me, well, you people are lazy or you keep wanting something free, there's this animosity of darkness. I call it embedded racism that they don't even know that they have inside of them, because there's always this distinction of saying, I don't know why, but I just don't think you guys should get it. I just don't think you should. For what reason? They don't know. And I'll tell you is because they have embedded racism and they're ignorant to the fact of the dispositions that have been in place through governmental systems. Now, what can we do? First of all, no matter who's president, you as an American citizen need to understand that only numbers, money, and power will change a nation of people. We are not utilizing our personal powers of connections and opportunity in our best interest. For example, the Jewish community have foundations. They take that money in their foundation, they put them in their schools. They got Jewish schools, they have mosques, they have communities that are all lined up because they know how to support and invest their community. We ain't got no foundation. We got black people who are millionaires and billionaires who are out there. We got entertainers who are out there. You know who they want to help? The liberal progressives, not black people, not a sole proprietorship. But what you just said to me, what you said to me is that, Shirley, couldn't we have legislation? Can't we raise money? Well, those people are conservative. Those people are liberals. Those are Democrats, right? Entertainers and ball players. And I won't kneel. I want them to do something. Well, what is your kneeling going to do? You got to check after all that. And nobody's talking about that money, Negro. What you do with the money, boy? What you do with the money, boy? Why you ain't set up no account to put on the side and help us, my friend? You little high yellow Negro living with them white people. Come on now. What you talking about?
So look, real quick.
Hold on.
I'm gonna let my brother
talk. Real quick, guys. We have 195 people watching, only 57 likes. Please hit that like button.
Y'all hit the like button. Look, understand these type of dialogues, they need to happen.
Yeah, they're not gonna happen.
And I wanted to say, sister, I really appreciate you, but I got to be honest. I've never agreed with someone so much and disagreed in the same I agree. I agree with a lot of what you're saying.
Okay, but I'm stopping you from disagreeing.
Okay, so here's the thing. The results that you're mentioning, I agree with, but the reason why these results are manifested, I disagree with. I don't think this is some inherent or innate dysfunction on the side of black folk. I think this is something that was done by design by white folk.
Oh, I agree with that. I said we're innately conservative. Don't.
One thing I got to specifically
and I mean that, meaning that we are people. We've shifted now. So I'm going to go back to maybe my generation. I was raised where we went to church on Sundays. We dressed conservative. We praised Jesus. We loved God.
But
I'm just saying these are things.
Politics. I understand what you're saying, but when we do that, we're getting into what we call respectability politics. We're basically saying, well, black folk, because you're not doing this the way you're supposed to do it, this is why you have that problem. We got to be specific. We have the problems that we have because this is basically our livelihoods have been dictated by people who we are beholden to. I also don't believe that white people, and I'm being vague, of course, are naive or that they don't know or that it's embedded racism. They are extremely extreme. You were talking about, when we think of racism, white supremacy, you were talking about the most effective, evolving, ever-changing, complex, forever weaponizing every new thing, even if it's not a weapon. This is
where I may disagree with you. There are a lot of white people too scared to ask, because if we have this energy of authority, and even your energy, you're an alpha brother. I love alpha brothers. Nice brothers.
Thank you, sis. I appreciate you, sis.
I love those kind of brothers. And Dinah's, oh Jesus, take the wheel. Y'all seen that? Dinah's? Woo, boy, I tell you, I'm gonna be nice tonight. Thank you, Jesus. I know that kid's in the room. Anyway, but I will tell you, brothers like yourself who are forthright, who are bold. Look how bold Dinah's is to go all them African countries and eat them people's food. I ain't doing all that. But I give the brother a lot of credit eating them weird ass foods. I ain't doing that. But anyway, these are things that we can do. There are people who come to me privately, and they're hurting me because they're saying, I really don't understand.
No,
but we make an assumption. Now you say no, they understand. I disagree with you. I think that if we can tone our tone down a little bit privately with our friends, with our conservative or white or liberal friends, and say, I want to know what you're thinking. Hold, let me finish my thought. Let me just finish my thought. You can talk. I don't want to assume anyone's thought. I think that's wrong. I don't want to assume anyone's.
But your actions tell me what they're doing. Like,
I already know what they're doing. I know half of them. But these are people. Because they can't confront you personally, they can say all this stuff, but in your face, they're gonna say that because they know they're gonna get cut. So, this is how social media works. But social media does not represent the communication lines of the world of white America. I'm sorry.
I agree.
There are white people who want help and who want to learn. There are good white people out there.
Let me say this. Our interpersonal relationships with white people have nothing to do with our group relationship with white people. I know plenty of white folk that I rock with heavy, some just by necessity of my job. But that has absolutely nothing to do with the relation between white people and African people and black people as a whole. In addition to that, regardless of how many white people you feel don't agree with this, the white people in power do. So the white people that have good hearts and that may be, I don't know, I ain't saying they John Browns, but they're not the most powerful white people. Unfortunately, the most powerful white people are white supremacists. And just because, and I want to be clear, not white extremists. Just because you are, support white supremacy doesn't mean that you're a white extremist. It doesn't mean you're going to put yourself at risk to harm some non-white people. But when we think about people who understand what racism and white supremacy is, understand they need to benefit from it and they need to continue it and find more ways to cloak it and evolve it, which is what we see now through gentrification and so many other ways. These are Trump being one of them, in my opinion. Well, facts. Trump being one of them. This is what we have to understand. It's not about our white friends and the few white people you have in contact with. These are not powerful white people. These are not powerful white people. Now, for black people to be oppressed, we need to understand that somebody has to benefit from that oppression. It's not an accident. I don't believe that we don't have certain things because we haven't asked for it in a specific way. Now, I agree with a lot of things you said about athletes and a lot of, us just basically caping for silly liberal stuff, because to me, it's all white supremacy, right? But I do feel like I disagree with the idea that if we ask for something the right way, we'll get it. Like, if you just ask Trump like this, you'll get it. They got it. Yeah, but they're not as dangerous to a system of white supremacy as African people are. We are a global majority. You understand? We are our essence. Everybody understands that when we think of the gains that have been gotten in this country specifically, with the 13% of the population, the things that we've done as a small group that would not have got done if some other group had those numbers in that same way. We understand African people bring unique things to the plate.
Right.
We're a threat. Honestly, not to get too far off topic, but if we talk about genetic annihilation, as Dr. Wilson always says, we are the biggest threat to white genetic annihilation. So the way people operate with us isn't necessarily the same way they operate with other people. So I don't think that other people coming into our communities and being given loans and being able to do things is because they thought of things that we didn't think of. It's because they have a unique relationship with the dominant society, and they were put in a position to do that.
And I said that earlier. They have dispositioned us and positioned them in another position. Let me give you my thought on this.
Okay.
People talk about race and culture, and I don't believe there's different races. I believe there's one race, the human race. But what I do believe, let me finish my thought. You didn't let me finish my thought, okay? You're gonna let me finish. Just hear me out, and then you can agree.
Okay.
I believe there's one race, the human race, but I believe that there's different cultures of people in that diaspora of humanity. And when we talk about cultures, like you have people who are from the South and people from the East Coast and Central America, they're all different, but we're all one human race, but we're different cultures. You got the Black culture, you got the Irish culture, you got the Italian culture, you got the French culture, totally different culture, Armenian culture, different cultures of people, but one race. We can take the word racism and give it a different phrase on it, because we all say racism and we all know what that means. America was not built for Black people. America was built for white conquistadors. They liberated themselves from England, and they came here and they said, we don't want to be dictated by a king or queen or dynasties. What we want in this country is a president. We should have presidency, and we want the people to govern. And so we want to create a level of legislation of local, state, and federal. So the white leaders who left Great Britain, came to America, created this country. Blacks came here in 1619. This year marks the 400th anniversary of African Americans in this country, and not enough people are talking about the value of our contribution. Not even our own people. I'm almost finishing my thoughts. You can just bear with me on this. Let's just bear with me on this one. African Americans have been here for 400 years. 400 years. You know what they brought us here for? Commodities, trades, goods, and service. That's all you were here for. And that's all they think of you today. So I'm not delusional in my thought plan of how they look upon us, but I do have to go back to when they changed legislation and they talked about the 13th and the 14th Amendment, and they talked about birthright rights, and they took us from being subhuman and claim that we're human, but we still don't get treated as human. But we don't treat ourselves as human either. So don't get that twisted. We don't treat ourselves as human either, because we disrespect each other, and we sit back and I told you there are wealthy African-American people who are not creating foundations.
There are no wealthy African-American people. I don't.
They're wealthy enough. They're wealthy enough to shift the paradox. They're wealthy enough that we can build numbers off of to make changes in our own community. So are we as wealthy as white Americans? No. Are we as wealthy as even some of these immigrants, because they are protected by the government? I agree with you on that.
Okay, so one, I never want to cut you off, and if I'm talking, I want you to jump in if I'm ever because to me a conversation is like a dance, right? So I want to be clear, just my communication style. If there's ever a point that you want to make, if I'm basing it off of something that I misinterpreted, just slide right in and give me the floor back, and I would do that sometimes too. But all right, so to go back, one thing you said, and I want to be clear on this: we didn't come here. African people did not come here. We were kidnapped. We were stolen. We are prisoners of war. We can start there. We can call it whatever you want, but that's what it is. In addition, when we talk about, you say there's no thing as race. Yes.
Can we jump in before you go off of that? Black people sold Black people. Dinah showed on his show where they sold us for an umbrella.
Okay.
Is that true or not, Dinah's? Did you not?
Unfortunately,
is that true? Dinah's, is that true?
Yeah, but
I'm not disagreeing.
But we were still prisoners of war, though.
For sure.
Right, I'm not saying that we weren't, but I'm just saying. However, the fact that we got here. Look, I'm not as commodity trades and goods. Can we at least agree on that?
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you, and what you're saying is not diametrically opposed to what I said. What I said specifically is we were kidnapped, and we were. Any African collaboration with that does not. That doesn't differentiate from what I just said. So, if not to get off topic, but since we got to go there, when we think about people who came along the coast and Western Africans, the majority of us were fishermen. They were kidnapped. Once you get deeper into inner Africa, where you mean some real resistance, of course there was level of collaboration there for sure, right? But that still doesn't change the power dynamic that we have and the relationship we have to this country. So a lot of times it's nothing wrong with speaking truth, but when you use truth, not you, but anyone uses truth as a deflective tactic from not only white compliance, but what they did, period, that's when we got to kind of, draw the line. So, okay, we can agree on that. But when you said race doesn't exist, it doesn't matter what people think about physiology or biology. There's still race.
I never said race did not exist. I said there's only one race. I said there was one race, the human race. I didn't say race didn't exist. I said that there is one race. Hold on, let me finish. I want to clarify what I said. I never said race didn't exist. I'm not delusional.
That's the same thing if you say
no, it's not. No, it's not. Because people say that race. You're all. If that's the case, you couldn't marry a white and a black and we couldn't cross-pollinate the way they did in this country. This country was built on blacks and white people having sex.
We are that's
how they built this country.
Sister,
they bred us. We were bred.
We're agreeing, but the way we're saying something different. So let me be clear, and then when I finish, it'll make more sense. So, yes. There's nothing wrong with believing we are one human race for sure. And the only reason we changed is because of climate changes and time and things like that. Okay, we get that. But regardless of whether that's true or not, there is still racism. So it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
So anyone saying, again, it's not the truth that you say, it's the way you use it. If someone says race doesn't exist, okay.
I never said that.
If you say,
but you're trying to impose a hypothetical statement in our conversation that I will not allow. I'm not saying that race did not exist. I said there's only one race, the human race. And if you want to use the term different races, that's fine. I'll accept that, and I agree with you. I use the term different cultures.
It doesn't matter what you or I say, it's what it is, and what the dominant society, how their relationship to us based on the assumption of race. So can we agree on that?
I agree on that.
Okay, there you go. So if there's some semantics and I'm wording wrong, not representing what you said, fine. But I will say, regardless of how we feel about race, because there is for sure one race, the human race, but it doesn't matter because
we're in a race-based society.
Exactly. So lack of a better word, you know what I'm saying? Race. Since racism exists and people are being discriminated off of race, that's why it's a matter. Now, when you say we have different cultures, we do have different cultures, but we need to understand, even by we should be Americans and just be flat Americans, but we're not. Black Americans, black folk in America who have a history here, and white people in America, they don't have the same culture. Not only do we not have the same culture, we don't have the same relation to power. If we're honest about it, black people and other, like, again, when I say, you'll see me use African people and black people interchangeably because black people are Africans. But for this conversation, black people and continental Africans, when they come here, their relation to each other is much more so connected than white American society and black American society, because when we're seen as black, period. It doesn't matter. I was telling our brother on another podcast that we just did, I've served 4 years in the Marine Corps. Honorably, I went to school here. I've done everything that the society says you're supposed to do to be so-called American. But when I'm seen as a young black male, as I should be, because I am a black man. So to me, I advocate for anything that is beneficial for African people, black people, not specifically Americans, because I understand that countries and how countries are organized are temporary. And people are temporary too when they get caught up in silliness and they wind up being exterminated, which unfortunately happens when you put the onus on black people for the position that they are in this country. That is very problematic. And then when we give white folk, not necessarily you, when we give white folk a pass, well, they just don't know. They're just ignorant. They are very aware. Nothing is an accident. We have to question everything. There's any coincidence that anything that anyone may believe is a coincidence. Why do all these coincidences coincidentally wind up with white folk being on top and black folk being on bottom? No matter what the stakes are, no matter what decade, no matter what country. The problem that black people have in this country is the same problem that black people have in every other country where they're not the dominant society. And that is solely based on our lack of power. So I'm agreeing with so much of what you say, but the reasons why is what I kind of disagree with, but I'm rocking with you.
Okay, Shirley, you got anything else you want to say?
No, I'm ready. I'm cool.
And so let me ask you this: why, when black people bring up reparations to white conservatives, they get angry and upset, but when it comes to Jews and Israel and the reparations, it's okay.
They in a strip club.
You know, Native Americans, it's fine.
They don't.
Well, but it's
Right. They're not offended.
they're not offended.
They don't.
Right.
They don't follow through with the treaties. But yeah,
but they're not as offended
for sure.
You know, but for some reason with black people, it's an issue. And then, you know, then here comes the Irish for slaves, which is bullshit. God,
it was a flat out lie.
You know, well, you guys got Oprah Winfrey. You know,
even the idea of and I got to piggyback on what you said. Even the idea of black wealth. There is no black wealth anywhere in the world. We have some few people that are making some okay paper. You got some people that are rich, but wealth is generational. Wealth is not just about income. You know what I mean? When we think of the richest black people in the world, which I would be the world, what's the brother Dangote? This is like 14 billion, right? Now, don't get it twisted. That's some serious paper. But Jeff Bezos apparently has like 130 billion,
right?
And then even the gap between Dangote and everyone else is like 9 billion.
And then the number of billionaires, white and black.
You hear me? Yeah. You hear me? And even when we think of black folk in America, rich black folk in America probably got like about around 3 billion, which is nothing. Yeah, nothing. It's nothing. That's nothing. That's some horrible decisions. That's some bad decisions, you know. And again, that wealth calcification has been predicated through policy, not just white ingenuity or black dysfunction.
And guys, get the likes up. Get the likes up. Please hit that like.
Well, first of all, let me say this to you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I do disagree on how you twist things and bring. I'm not saying you, but I'm saying something else. Then that implements that I'm saying that. I don't. I know that, but this is. You know,
well, when I say that,
you're cutting me off again. You're cutting me off again. Can I get my point across?
I'm not disagreeing.
I let you talk a long time. Can I get my point across?
Yes.
When I have conversations, I like to think you talk and I talk. So I like to talk right now. So I have a right to agree or disagree with you regarding the wealth issue.
Sure.
Because we all know what real wealth is. But there are opportunities for us now through technologies to make those difference. If we start coming together. If we're going to keep saying that we can't be wealthy, then we won't be wealthy. If you want to have the mindset of saying we don't have opportunities to make it work for us, is it going to be easier? No. Are we going to still go through hell? Absolutely. But then we're gonna be hopeless and say, no. So what's the solution? Wait for government to come and just give us a whole bunch of money? You know that ain't gonna happen. So if you know that government ain't gonna help you, you know the white man ain't gonna help you, then are we gonna wait for African people to come over here? A lot of Africans don't even like African Americans. And we so want everyone else to accept us. So I don't know if I agree with you on you. So that's why I said I'm agreeing with you on a lot of things, but I don't like the allocations of when we have conversations. You said, I'm not saying you, but I'm saying this, and then you go on this tangent of that issue that I did not support or bring up.
Sister,
so
I'm not.
If you can converse with me, let me finish my thought, because I didn't cut you off. I didn't cut you off. If you can converse with me and say, this is the issue, what do you feel about that? I would respect that.
Okay. All right. Now, to be clear, whenever I'm talking, if you want to jump in and say something anytime, the way I communicate, that I'm okay with you doing that, because we're not speaking in person. So it's different, right? So if there's ever a chance when you jump in, this to me a conversation is a dance, but that's another conversation.
But when you have the viewers who are watching, they don't get that same energy. They'll say, wait a minute, I get to hear what she said, or I didn't get to hear what he said. So I try to be fair for the viewers because there's a lag time in technology.
But I'm prioritizing. I'm still going to prioritize a conversation with you and hope they see that. But real quick, when I want to apologize for something, let me be clear. When I say I know you're not saying that, that's not me trying to find a cop out. I didn't say that either, and I don't think that you're copying out. I think you're deflecting from the subject matter. I know you didn't say that. I'm not saying you said that. Okay, what I'm saying is, when I hear certain arguments that are along those lines, that's why I'm clear to say I know you didn't say that. That's not me just being facetious. I really mean it. So I'm trying to be clear to let everyone know, hey, you didn't say that, but I've heard these things also. That's all I'm trying to do. Okay. When I'm having this conversation, I promise you, I'm prioritizing conversation with you. I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm not trying to overtalk you. And I can disagree with you and still be 100% cool with you. I respect a lot of what you believe, and some things I disagree with, right? And that's cool. And you're right. We do have, you do have the ability to disagree with me. But I'm telling you, when we talk about black folk not being wealthy, this is facts.
Let me ask you this: if the black people with money, and let me ask you this too, Shirley. The black people with money,
yeah,
if they were to circulate their money more in the black community, do you think we'll be better off? I think that's what Shirley's trying to say. Is that right, Shirley?
Absolutely. If we go back in time, when we think of black communities that stay within the communities, meaning that there was a time when doctors and attorneys and lawyers, they had different wealth levels, right? But they still kept the money moving within their community. The Jewish community do that. There's certain look, California is a bad version of Epcot. Let me share my heart. I'm a native born and bred Californian. And I would tell you, in California, they got people who the Chinese stick together. They got little Korean town. They got little Tokyo, little Ethiopia. Little Ethiopia didn't even want to say they were black people because they got little Ethiopia. Okay, they have their businesses. They live around their businesses. They live around their community. They have perpetuated this racist consciousness that we're talking about to a level that is unbelievable because they're the victim. I'm a victim. I'm a victim. I don't know why you people do this to us. You did this. You did this. We didn't do nothing to you. You came here for free shit. Now you done got your stuff, and now you keep wanting free stuff. But the black people are your victimism. I don't like stuff like that. So when it comes to African American people, look, we got to play the game. We're in America. America has a game called policies, called legislation. It's a game. It's a game in this country. Do we win or lose? Do we take the chance? Do we roll the dice? Or we just say, no, we don't get nothing. No, black people ain't got no money. No, I ain't gonna take no risk. I don't play that game. I'm going to take a better role and I'm going to take the higher ground and I'm at least try. And I can tell you, I know those personally that have tried and succeeded. The wealthy black people of entertainment, because that is our strength, right? We're not known for hotels. We're not known for the hair, $1 billion hair industry. That was our industry that we gave to the Koreans, okay? If we took that back alone, we would reposition ourselves. Like I stated earlier in this video, for those who are coming in and watching me, my name is Shirley Husar. I'm a CEO of Urban Game Changers. My job is I go into urban communities, I hold elected officials accountable, as well as myself. We are in 13 different states, so please go to urbangamechangers.com. Yes, I am wearing a Trump hat. Some of you guys are in Trump rooms. Why is she wearing that hat? Yes, I support a president that believes in wealth and opportunity, and I'm not going to support any candidate that want to continue to expand governmental programs. And it doesn't matter who president is what we do with the information that is given to us.
Can I slide in real quick? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, my bad, sister. Okay, so real quick, let me be clear. Regardless of where anybody feels on political lines, I identify with you as an African woman more so than I identify with anybody based on their religion, more so than I identify with anybody based on their political orientation. So let me just start with that. Any of those things are, to me, are an avenue for black liberation. They're just a tool, but my allegiance is to blackness. I don't put anything else before that. So when I hear we or them and the type of energy that some of us may have toward, basically everyone but white folk, even unfortunately black folk who don't agree with them along political lines, to me, it seems like it's an easier target. It's an easier target. We have to hold whiteness and what it is accountable. We have to hold whiteness accountable. Now, I'm not somebody who's against. Again, I'm doing all right. I'm not against black folk, striving, grinding, owning black business. I'm a serious advocate for black business. But I also understand this bootstrap mentality is scapegoating and it puts the onus on black dysfunction on black people instead of the system that has continually and perpetually keeps us in a disadvantageous position. I'm not going to let whiteness and what it represents off the hook. Now, there were some examples that you mentioned, one specifically that stood out to me about Jewish people, which they do as a minority in this country. They do a really good job of group economics and just understanding solidarity, nation within the nation. But they put that before political lines. They put that before religious lines. Black people need to do that, and not to me. You can be Democrat, you can be conservative about some things, you can be liberal about some things, but to call myself a conservative or to call myself a liberal and think that any brother or sister that doesn't fit within those lines is is something I don't agree with, or I'm closer to a white person who has this political ideology, to me, it's kind of short-sighted. But one thing that I also want to mention, that when we think about Jewish people specifically, Jewish people can tap in and out of whiteness. You understand? Black people don't have that option. So
so I'm going to stop you right there because you're. I want to say some things because you're talking and talking, and I don't want to be looked as a bad guy in this. I just want to say something.
Shirley,
I would like to have a conversation because he keeps telling me like I don't know what you preaching to the choir. First of all, I'm preaching to the choir because what you're saying I already know. I'm not saying and I'm not disagreeing with you on that. So my question to you is, what is the solutions? Because you're just perpetually saying things that we already know. If you don't agree with white America, if you don't agree with Trump, it's irrelevant. What is it? What's in it for you? Okay. What do you want for black people? What do you think? Since you tell me how evil everybody else is, I get it. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I believe that there's a difference in our culture versus white America and all that. I want you to tell me right now, what solutions do you have to bring on the table, and what money have you set aside to fund this vision or obtain this vision that you see to make Black America better?
Okay, I'm going to answer your question, but let me preface it with this. Sister, the energy that you have with me right now, it's not being reciprocated. I'm not attacking you. And when I say something,
I don't think that you're attacking me. I'm just trying to say, okay, let's pivot the conversation. I agree with you. Okay, so you don't have to keep going over all the history of Black people and Jewish people. But we all can agree on that. I think there's people on this chat room that want to go to the next level. I want to ask you a question. Can you answer my question for me? Because I've listened to a lot that you said. I'm asking you a serious question.
Okay.
This is my question for you.
Go ahead.
Do you want to see Black lives and better? What money have you set aside, and who do you know? Because it takes money, it takes numbers, and it takes power. So what connections, what money, what numbers have you set aside to bring a change within your community?
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll answer that question. First, me as one individual person, I'll tell you what I'm doing as an individual, which isn't nearly enough to help the masses of African people in this country. But since you want to do that, we can do that. One, I started 2 nonprofits, Hip Hop Chess Federation. We use hip hop pedagogy to teach African children and use it as a metaphor for life. We've got children into plenty of charter schools in Cali. I run the East Coast chapter. My brother Adisa Ben-Hoko runs the West Coast chapter. I've started another nonprofit, Fighting for Uganda, where we travel internationally and we teach free self-defense seminars, and we talk about consent, rape culture, situational awareness, in addition to teaching self-defense. I'm also a prize fighter, and I run a Pan-African Saturday school out of my house. None of that has anything to do with this conversation that we're having now. None of that matters.
See, and I disagree. I think it does matter. Can I share with you? You told me I can cut you off at any time. So since you want to go there, let's do it. Sure. I think it does matter because I think you bring a lot of value to the table that people need to hear.
So, right, but it's not my job to roll out my resume.
Yeah, but see, I can roll out mine too. It's not about you rolling out. I don't look at that as a rollout. I look at it as
let me interject. Let me interject. So, guys, the topic was, why do white conservatives get angry when Black people bring up reparations? We got Black folks getting angry at Black folks on here.
Brother, I'm trying to. If I'm tripping, tell me I'm tripping, man. But I'm trying to be.
Okay. I know, but I feel like I'm being dictated to.
You're not, Shirley. You're not, Miss Husar. You're not.
I would like to have a conversation. You ask a question, I answer. I ask you a question, you answer. I continue to hear a history lesson as if I am incompetent or I don't know. No, you don't know. So let me help her out. I got 3 sons, Black grown men that I got to deal with on an everyday basis.
Okay, listen,
I respect what you're saying, but come on, bring something else to the table. What would you like to know and talk about that we can do now? What can we do? Let's talk about now. I don't want to hear about the Jews and we covered all that. We covered that. We covered it. It's good. I'm glad we talked about it and it's covered. I would like to know from you the now. What is the now that you want? What is the now? Let's talk about now. Let's talk about now. I know you don't like Trump. I know people on this ring don't like Trump. I'm just saying, not you. I'm talking about the people on the feed who see me with the hat. And I do agree with you. Our energies intimidate people. And I do agree with you. Our body types, our language, our history. We are strong entity people. That's why 2 alphas right here are having a difference. That's cool. I love it. I love it. I think it's important that people see that we are very passionate about our opinion. Sure. But then my question is, what can we go on, my brother? What is the next thing? What is the next thing? What is the it for 2019 that our people could do to better themselves?
Okay, there we go. Let me say one thing, and I'm gonna let our brother Diners jump in instead of moderating this thing. So, since this is specifically about why do white conservatives get angry when black people bring up reparations, I want to kind of funnel it back to that. So sometimes my passion for African people can some kind of just lane switch. I get that. Okay. And also this is your lane. So I don't want to hijack your interview. I was here from another interview with our brother. But so one thing I want to ask specifically, which you spoke to, but I want to add on to a little bit more. When you think about legislation that could be specifically put in place for black people, what can we as black people do that, let's say we don't identify as Democrats or Republicans, right? But you're trying to bring someone more into a understanding that Trump offers. What can we do to educate ourselves more about how to basically maximize our political power to get specific tangibles for black people in America?
I think African American people need to know there's 3 levels of government: local, state, and federal.
Okay.
And for some reason, and I know you don't like me to say it, I'm gonna say it again, we start going on these Trump tantrums, and then we start calling each other names and coons, and then we start saying, well, you know, she's been programmed. We're not talking about the local, state, and federal, because the local people are taking advantage of us. Legislators that we continue to vote over and over in office, that we are not voting out of office. You know, we go to other communities, we'll see better schools, better markets, we'll see better streets, we'll see better sidewalks. I mean, can you agree with me at least on that? And that if we as a community would vote these legislators out, there's money allocated to better our community, and they're taking that money and they're squandering that money. How many cases have we heard of? So I think that first, if we can say we need to run a descendant of slaves, we need to run candidates that are African-American descendant of slaves on a local state level. We need to identify the #1 problems in our community. For me, I'm dealing with the invasion of immigrants in the African-American community. We're down to 6% blacks in California. I've interviewed black people who are in cages downtown LA. Nobody's willing to do that. I've interviewed 67-year-old black woman who basically said immigrants should have more priority over them over us. Her mind is twisted and is gone. They've gone in there and they basically have pushed us out and purposely have said, even to my son, you don't speak Spanish, we don't hire black people. You guys don't understand the racism and hatred that we're dealing with in California. So I think that if we can zoom in on issues and push aside the personal attacks and zoom in on local and state, then we can shift federal. But you can't shift federal if you don't have a candidate that's elected that understands your pain. There's a non-pain related issue coming from candidates that don't respect you. Kamala Harris, nobody can tell me what legislation she put on the table to make difference in black community, because she did not. She was an attorney. She was an attorney that basically prosecuted many African-American people. Hillary Clinton created 3 strikes you're out, right? So these are things that I'm gonna repeat them because I know you agree with me. We both know this already, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. She's a
So if we agree on these issues, then we need to look at ourselves and say, we need to start talking about people who are in office right now, that now that they're in office, start holding them to the fire, grabbing the kahunas, grabbing the balls of these people and say, look, dog, let me make this clear. What are you doing for black people? This is what's in my community. This is in my community. If we got to have town hall meetings, if we got to go back to meeting in black churches. Trump passed legislation where the people kept worrying about they're going to lose their 501(c)(3). We don't have to worry about that anymore. Black people can go in and talk about politics in the church. If you got to use the church because it's supposed to be free, these Jesus people should let you come on in and have political conversation regarding social justices in the community, because people can't afford to do no hotel or no restaurant. We need to go maybe in some big hall or recreational center. You know, local and state conversations need to address issues nationally, locally, that pertain to us. And if we can put aside the personal attacks, then maybe we can shift the paradox.
Yes, indeed, sister. Honestly, I'm really glad we shifted back to this, because this is, to me, where you, regardless of how, if anybody agrees with you or not, this is where you shine at. So yeah, I appreciate that. I've got I was just thinking, okay, so the issue with American descendants of slaves and how we feel in terms of competition with different immigrant factors. We meaning most folks, some folk. What other issues do you think are big and on the table? Because I've heard from other people who have YouTube channels that identify as ADOS, and to me, the feeling that I get is that immigrant or foreign competition is the #1 factor that's that Black people in America need to focus on. So I'll say, and I know you didn't say that, but in addition to that, what other issues do you think are really big, like should be a topic of discussion for Black folk in this country?
I think the fact that Black people don't understand legislation, they don't understand levels of government, they don't understand that there are people who are empowered with a lot of money of your taxpayers, your county and your parish monies that are not going back to you. I think Black people need to understand that there's school districts that get better money, better books, better teachers than our communities. And we're assuming that's supposed to be okay. Like in California, for example, if you guys can bear with me and listen and stay with us right now, get the likes up, I appreciate it. And share this video on your social media pages because it really helped Dinah. He's an amazing person. And I'm grateful to have this conversation with this brother. If we look at the public school system in Los Angeles right now, they have half the class in English and half the class in Spanish. Sometimes they have full days of the Latin community in the public school system. Now, this is the public school system. You can't afford a private school. You ain't got no magnet program your child qualified for. And now these people have preference over you. And if you go in and say something, then you're racist. That's their number one response. Oh, you're racist. But see, this is where we need to say, hold on. Power comes in numbers. If we ain't got no money, at least we got some damn numbers for now. Because that's what they're breaking us on. They're breaking our numbers and they're breaking our families. So yes, I have to go back to what you said earlier, my brother. Immigration and chain migration has dispositioned us financially and positioned these people to another level. Right. And when it comes to the education, number two for me is education, because how are you gonna have your kid go to school and my kid, because he speaks English, he loses half of his education because this other kid can't even speak English and don't want to acclimate. These people don't want to acclimate. They don't want to assimilate. Let me say this to you. Do you realize that $30 billion, let's talk about money. You know about billions, right? $30 billion in remittance goes back to Mexico from America. That means that they take money because they do all this cash operating under the table in California. Matter of fact, I've had Black people tell me that the immigrants will get paid with an envelope because the business owner don't want to report them to the IRS as an employee and pay them cash on the table, and yet we get a 1099 and they take all the shit out of our checks. Okay, but we allow that because we don't report the owner of the company with this doggone envelopes. And some of these people in line got to agree with that. They got to agree with that. Okay, so if you're going to have us be dispositioned by cash, and then they come here, so I got to go back and send money to my country. I got to help my people. They're good people. It's a good country. Well, if it's so good, why aren't you doing something there? Why did you abandon your fellow man and come here? Because you're utilizing the Constitution and the systems we have here and their decisions. So I think we need to start calling these people out. We need to start looking at the school systems and calling them out, saying, my child's getting half an education, and we need to have united fronts and go back to boycotting, protest, boycott schools, boycott businesses, boycott these Korean businesses who are selling soul food like in Baltimore. I did a videotape, and Dynasty can talk about that. I show these Chinese people cooking chitlins and greens and yams. I'm like, do you eat that? The man can barely say, chitlins. What, you want some of this for me? I'm like, what? So we have become commodities of goods and trade still today. And all we do is consume. We're not the owners. We're not the builders or anything. So again, a disposition on top of an educational lack of is failing our community.
There you go. I agree 100%. And so when we talk about, you hear people talk a lot about supporting Black business. Supporting Black is important, but building Black is even more important.
Amen.
Build, piggyback what Donna said earlier, when we talk about our folk that,
let me give you an example. Okay. So Shirley, I was telling Brother Dewan here that the reality of a Black person in LA and the issues that they face is different from the realities of Black people that we might face here in Atlanta or in Durham, North Carolina. And so, like, for example, and Shirley knows, so like in LA, when we'll say South Central and Compton and Crenshaw was predominantly Black, you weren't allowed to sell and vend on the streets.
Damn.
Now that it's predominantly Hispanic now, they can pretty much do everything they want.
Okay.
So little things like that, that's why from you, you're like, okay, I don't see why it's why it's
like, is that the focal point for sure?
Right, but when you live in LA, because I lived in LA for 6 years, so I know exactly where Shirley's coming from. And the thing is, these politicians don't care.
Right.
Maxine Waters doesn't care.
For sure.
They don't care. Now they'll show up when it's time to get a vote. But
babies in church.
yeah, exactly. But outside of that, they don't care. You know, our Skid Row was predominantly black. The reason why it's not being addressed is because it's predominantly black.
For sure.
Right, and Skid Row's not a row anymore. It's a whole district of people. Maxine Waters' district is primarily Latino. So she's not caring about the black community. She has been part of that demise. She's allowed our communities to basically, if people have left here, I said good for them. Because there's people who are like your generation, or like Dinah's, who have young children. They can't afford to live here anymore. And thank you, Dinah's, for providing that clarity of lifestyle.
So
many of you people out there don't understand.
Not to cut you off, Shirley, but I understand where Shirley's coming from. Because I lived in LA for 6 years. So I know it's frustrating as hell.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you'll have Maxine Waters pivot and go after Trump, but then black people in LA in her district are living in her backyard. Are just living terrible. But then when you confront her about it, it's deflection.
So to me, when we think about things like that's not an accident, right? And that,
no, it's not an accident.
And I'm not saying that, you know, different people who are immigrating here can't be held accountable. But that the fact that they're allowed to do that means it's by design because someone's allowing them to, right?
Absolutely. I agree with you on that.
About the bigger power source, like who's letting this happen? Because whoever's letting this happen knew what was going to happen before it happened, right?
Because but the people who are letting it happen is us, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because if enough of us came together and start voting these people out of office, look how the Muslims went into Detroit. Detroit is black. But under President Obama, he had this movement of letting the refugees come in. The Salvadorians and Somalians and the Muslims came in that community to the point that they not only built wealth, but they built a establishment of a community that what did they do first time they got that little power? They got themselves an elected official. So what is her priority? Is it black people? In a city that's known for black people? No, it's about the Muslim and her showing all her sarah and all that going on and all that animosity that's going on within the country over this woman. But what about the African Americans in Detroit who lost their homes, who had to surrender their homes to the bank, and the bank, this is true, this is not allegedly, the banks, because I'm in real estate, I've been a licensed realtor for 20 years. I graduated from USC Financial Real Estate Development. I live and breathe development and real estate. So I'm not just trying to throw cards on the table. I'm just gonna let you know I know my history on development and opportunities. They pivot us away, allowed our homes to be foreclosed in 2008 and 9 and 10, and then allowed the Selma of those people to come over, and they gave them our homes. And now those people have thriving businesses. Now when you go to Detroit, there's a Muslim community. So what happened recently? What happened in New Zealand? Someone bombed the Muslim mosque, right? So who funded to help the Muslims grow in New Zealand? The American Detroit Muslims did. They sent money to New Zealand to help more Muslims grow that area and that region of the country regarding their religion. That's a remittance based on religion, not just based on a culture of people, meaning that we send it to Mexico and Ireland and France. That's another remittance that is not fair because we don't get any of that money. Like I told you, $30 billion is leaving America going to Mexico. That's just Mexico alone. I've been told over $250 million leaves every time. They do Snapchat, they do Walmart, and they hotwire, and they do all this thing. They're always sending these cash over to their country. When Dinah's talked about them cooking on the street, you've got to go to my YouTube channel. You've got to subscribe. Look at the videos. Just go to my videos. All I ask you is go to my videos. You will see people cooking out of grocery carts. They set a stove on a grocery cart. The police is nearby. I interviewed the police, and the police said ain't nothing wrong with that. They had a baby stroller, and they set up a shrimp on ice, and they sold cash. Why are they buying from each other? Because they know the importance of commodity trades and goods and the economic platform to grow their own people. So not only are they taking advantage of our system, they're only buying from themselves. These people are systematically put here, yes, because we've allowed government to disposition us, but we also are supporting the rhetoric because we're not screaming loud enough. We need to say this is enough. Let's go back to boycotting, doggone it. How did we stop stuff? We boycotted. Let's stop eating at these Chinese soul food restaurants. Let's stop supporting antics in our community that we know are wrong. Let's start protesting saying, I'm tired of my child getting a half education, half English and half Spanish. I'm sorry, if enough mothers and fathers would come together and help some of these brothers step up and help some of these single mothers, I think we can do better. if we want better. We can't.
No, I mean, Shirley. I mean, again, I lived in California I lived in LA for 6 years, so I know what's going on. So I agree with Shirley.
Look, I agree, 100%. Real quick, Arlene Army. I said that in response to something that our sister and I were talking about. Just scroll back, and then watch the whole discussion. Yeah, Shirley. Look, I agree 100%. I personally, this isn't about whether someone's a Republican or whether a Democrat. Right. I don't have a lot of faith in the American political system to change the power relation between African people in this country, Black people in this country. Mm-hmm. But I do believe any and every avenue that we can use for our benefit should be used. You understand? So right. I'm not against that. So folk that are putting in the type of work that you're putting in, Shirley, I appreciate that. If it's gonna end up in some Black folk getting some tangibles, I'm down with it. I'm rocking with it. You know what I'm saying? And
I'm also rocking with you. I didn't have you say, I wanted you to say what you're doing for a reason, because I want people to realize you're a beautiful, strong Black man who's doing good for your community. You came up and you said, I got 2 nonprofits. Well, I got some faux profits I want to tell Black people about. I want to see Black people to have trades. I want to see Black people buy franchises. See. There are franchises under 100,000 for $50,000 and $60,000 and $40,000. You should look up the top 10 franchises under 50,000, and they will give you loans from the franchises to start your business if your business proposal is in the right manner. These are things that we need to have discussions on. We got to take the risk on. We got to expand our mindset on. But if we're going to sit back and just criticize and talk about all this other bullshit, it ain't cutting nothing. It ain't moving us forward. I love my people. Y'all don't understand. We are under attack in California. We're at 6%. Ain't no Black man. I'm tired of these gay men on Facebook, and I'm tired of gay men in Hollywood. All they doing is showing brothers sucking lips and all these men flashing around with dresses, and these emasculated Black men on the bottom boys. They're the top boy and they got a white bottom boy. I mean, this is not our culture. With your people, you like that. This is what you guys like to do. No, this is Hollywood. That we allow Hollywood to we realize that community exists. First of all, I don't want the gay and lesbian community, because I got some of y'all as my friends and I love you for who you are. But I have to make this clear. I don't want my culture of people to die off. And if everybody became gay and lesbian, we're kind of a done situation. So I don't support that. I want to see Black families come together. I want that Black man to lead, be respected, have that voice that he should, and respect that queen the way he should. That she should, vice versa, right? So I'm gonna speak my real truth. But when you have Hollywood that keeps wanting to make it seem like, well, everybody in LA is gay, I guess I might be gay too. I'm kind of attracted to him. That's a demonic spirit. I just don't agree in the promotion of that. It really bothers me. It gets under my skin, because I thought, where are the good Black families? If you're gonna promote that, why can't we promote the good Black family? Why can't we show a Black woman not acting silly and jiving and being a comedian?
For sure.
This is why we have intellectual conversations on YouTube. And this is what I tell my own people and myself. I only give so much energy to that and so much of my mind to be suppressed by that stuff. I go, I done had enough of this. I'm turning it off, because I know that's not the reality that I want in my life or the spirit I want put before me, even though that spirit is constantly put out there, if you agree or disagree. I think that we have more to offer. And I think what you said earlier is very vital. We're an intimidating culture of people. Our body type's intimidating, our disposition, our belief in who we are. That's why they always want to beat us down. Tall Black men are attacked by the police in California. Let me tell you something about the police, the LAPD. LAPD right now has Salvadorians, that these little Mexican cops that are 5'4". These are little cops that they've allowed to be cops. And they act emotionally. That's why you see people quickly killed, like that boy was quickly killed up in Northern California. And then they empower the immigrants and they empower the gang members. Like I told you, $1.5 million they gave to MS-13 to make the community safe. That's what the city council did. This had nothing to do with federal. This is what the city council did in Stockton, California. You look that up. $1.5 million they gave to MS-13s. Well, hell, they could have gave that to the Bloods and the Crips, but no, they don't want to do that. They want to find ways to keep us dispositioned and keep taking us out. And, because of the privatized prisons, they need that big Black man and that big Black woman to compensate and make those free goods under those trades and services that are going on. And we got to call stuff out. If we ain't gonna call that out, then we ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere because we ain't calling none of this stuff out.
Hey Shirley, you know what the irony is? Even though the population of Black people in LA or California or LA has shrunk to 6%, that we still make. When I used to drive, I used to live downtown LA, and I used to drive by that courthouse on Hill Street. We still the majority of people in that line wrapped around the building heading into that courthouse for some reason.
Absolutely, because we're targeted. Because
Right.
they know that they have to reach a certain number. I've seen homeless people. I filmed this. Y'all need to go to my channel. Go to Shirley Husar on YouTube.
I just put it.
Shirley Husar. If you go on my YouTube channel, you will see me interview police officers on horses that stand over these Black homeless people who are homeless. They ain't got nothing, right? And they writing them tickets. I'm like, why are they writing this man a ticket? He got a dog. His tent's not the right way. Well, you know, just to be able to know that if he gets 3 tickets, they can arrest him. Then they can hold him because he can't afford bail. He can't afford an attorney. District attorneys are backed up. You know, they might plant some weed on the brother. Who knows? But whatever the case may be, he's a target now. And he is a commodity of goods and trades because, you know, basically, technically, legislation and government, this goes from a federal level because we've not fought against it, that if you do get incarcerated, you revert back to slavery. Now, you guys know that's law, that you revert back to slave if you are arrested and go to jail in this country, because it was stated that way when they wrote it back years ago, and there's never been anything to change that. So the devaluation of ourselves, the devaluation of where we think have to be addressed. It's painful, but it's true.
Hey, this is what we'll do. Shirley, thank you so much for coming on. What we'll do, closing statements from Brother Dewan and closing statements from you, Ms. Husar, if that's okay. But we can continue. But
look, Shirley, I want to say I appreciate you. I think your message is very important to folk. I definitely got hip to a lot of, you know, updates on what's going on in Cali.
Yeah, I lived there for 6 years, so I understand Shirley's frustration. Trust me, that's why I got out.
For sure.
You know, I had my son, and then I was like, okay, I'm going back to Atlanta. But I used to feed the homeless Shirley, I think I told you this, from 2008 to 2014, I used to feed the homeless every Sunday on Skid Row. So. And I used to have a program where I would help in Watts housing project across from Nickerson Gardens called Imperial Courts. I used to run a outreach program there too. So trust me, Shirley, I know exactly what's going on in LA. That's why I completely understand your frustration and why you're pissed off about the situation that Black people's facing in LA, because she's not exaggerating. She's telling the truth.
For sure.
And yeah. So, but go ahead, Dewan, and Shirley, you can close out.
No, that was about it. And again, regardless of how we feel about any different opinions around the overall reasons, I do agree that prioritizing how we respond to that and using any resource that we have access to you know, benefit is priority. So yeah, appreciate you.
Oh, go ahead, Shirley.
You know, I appreciate you guys watching. I know that you may look at me and say, oh, this is the woman with the Trump hat on her head and she don't know what she's talking about. And there's others who say, no, I understand what you're talking about. You don't live my pain. You don't live in California. You ain't, when Black man asks me for $1, a dime, knowing that I have access to the president or knowing all the political connections that I know, I almost want to cry because I say to myself, well, what good is that going to do? Because that's not going to make no difference. Feeding a Black man, feeding a Black woman ain't gonna make no difference. It just keeps them alive another day. Giving them some clothes ain't gonna make a difference. We need to grow and figure out a way to pull ourselves out of this structure. Like Yuri said, he said, you know, Dinah said, look, there's something in this. There's some reason why they are doing this to us. And we know why they're doing this to us, because they've always loved to suppress and control us, right? That's why we were brought here, for commoditized goods, trades, and services. But it's up to us to pull back and do almost like Dr. King. We're not protesting. We're not protesting against the businesses that got taken over in our community. And so I'm not buying any more from that Korean man. I'm not buying his food. I'm not getting that gas. We need to start protesting. We need to start liberating the conversation of pain. And many of you who don't believe me, get on a bus or a plane. You ain't got much money. Go to Spirit. You can fly to Spirit real cheap. Go to Spirit and get on a plane and come out here and see what your state will look like in the next 15 years if you don't wake up. You want to know what real socialism is. You want to know what real pain is. You want to know what real poverty of Black America. You want to know what shit looks like. Come on out here. We've got typhus. right now on the rage. Black plagues on rats running downtown LA. Look up typhus. Typhus is a black plague. It's contagious and it's non-curable. Right now they've got things that are cured, but it's really a plague. It's called typhus. Now we've got that. Why? Because they won't clean the streets. They feed all these homeless people and then they leave the food out. We've got hepatitis A. People are getting hepatitis A. We have tuberculosis that are growing. This is in the black community downtown district areas. And now the city council has rats running around and got rat traps at City Hall. Now you think I'm lying? Google this. You think I'm lying? Look it up. Rat traps are in City Hall right now. Rat traps. Some lady, a white woman, an attorney, caught typhus. And she says, I thought this was eradicated. I thought this disease was over with. And no, it's a black plague that's coming back. See, because God don't like ugly. Now that's where I come in as a Christian. God does not like ugly, and all that is upon this can come upon them. So don't get it twisted, because you cannot sit back and have no compassion for your fellow man, but yet you want to continue to bring a nation of people in here who don't take responsibility in the land that they were allotted when they were born in. My name is Shirley Husar, Husar. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. You can join urbangamechangers.com. You can make a donation through PayPal. You can follow me if you want to email me with logical stuff. Don't email me bullshit. I'm going to delete it. But if you want to email me, my name is shirleyhusar@gmail.com. We are going to have an event in Virginia, and I'll let you know when and where. But it is going to be August 21st through August the 25th to remember and commemorate the 400 years of being in this culture, in this people here, African Americans in America today. We are strong people. We have opinions, we have ideologies, and no matter who's president, because when this guy is gone, we're going to still be here. We're going to still have issues, and we need to address them. And we need to utilize the power of no matter who the administration is to work in our best interest. And if we don't do that, then we have failed ourselves. Thank you guys so much.
I know, Shirley, anytime, sister. Thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed the conversation. Yes, everyone, make sure you go and follow Shirley. I'll put the link to her YouTube page on the in the chat room. Again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you go to search for Huru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, like, share, and subscribe. And also, I am holding my first tour, hosting my first tour to Africa, to Nigeria this summer in August. So, guys, please hit me up for details.
And then when you come back from August, he's going to come to Virginia, because I'm going to get him in Virginia.
Okay.
You'll be back in time by the 21st to come on out.
Okay.
Because we're going to make history together, me and you.
There we go. There we go. So, guys.
Thank you, family. God bless y'all.
Anytime.
Take care, sister. Be safe.
All right. Thank you. Till next time, family. Peace.